Welcome to Business Owner Tales from the Trenches, the podcast for business owners who want to see around corners and thrive financially. Your host is Carr, CEO and business owner at CornerCap. Tune in every other week for lessons learned from the trenches of entrepreneurship, business successes, and financial independence. Here's Cannon.
Hello and welcome to the show. Today we have that rare opportunity to speak with someone who has founded and run a business for 35 years. Most businesses don't make it to 35 years. So we're excited to bring you our conversation today. And this one has special meaning because it is also an interview with our founder of our firm celebrating his 35 years in business. So Claudia, why don't you introduce our guest?
Yeah, today we have Tom Quinn on the podcast. Like Cannon said, he is the founder of CornerCap, our wealth management business, and we are celebrating our 35th anniversary this year. Tom, after working at RJR and running their institutional research, he decided to start his own business once it was purchased by Nabisco. Leveraging his expertise and technological skills, he created Fundametrics, which is still used at CornerCap today.
It is a great story that we get to share with you today. And as you listen to this conversation, keep three things in mind. The first one is just listen to Tom's own journey. In many respects, it is that classic entrepreneurial journey. And you'll learn a little bit about why he started the business, what the three keys to success are, or at least in our view, the three keys, and maybe some challenges and what he could have done better along the way. He talks in his usual self-effacing, very candid style.
Yes.
But it's a classic journey. And by the way, he is an innovator in this industry. And so it's interesting to hear how he talks about that. Second, you'll focus on what we call the courage of conviction. If you know Tom, he's all about conviction. And as classic entrepreneurs has incredible conviction about his business and about how he does things. And again, it's a very candid conversation. There are times when this conviction has helped. In fact, it was key to survival. And there are times when the conviction was actually impeding growth. And so very interesting there. And also what's unique about this conversation too, as a business owner of a wealth management firm, conviction in investment discipline is different than conviction in managing a business. And hearing Tom navigate that is important as well. And then the third thing to keep in mind is just how people and culture must adapt over time to remain successful. Over 35 years in business, industries change, people change, and if you don't change as a business, you won't survive. So that is a fascinating conversation too. So sit back and enjoy this episode. If you do want to learn more about CornerCap and Tom's story, we do have it available on our website. And so you can check that out at cornercap.com. And we also talk there just about our 3Rs methodology for business owners and entrepreneurs to help them manage their liquid wealth on the way to success. So Tom has lived that story, and we're proud to share it with you. Well, Tom, this is a special occasion, and we're excited to have you in the studio. And you know, we'll get into your career and how you innovated, how you started a company, how you did many innovative things, I think, for the investment industry. But I thought we'd start with just simply, did you see yourself as an entrepreneur when you were getting started?
I never thought about that. I thought I wanted to run a business. My father had a furniture store where he ran 20-some people in this large store, and I worked for him. And I like the idea of running your own business and being kind of in charge of the philosophy, the culture, the attitude toward each other. So probably I would call me a desirable one-time entrepreneur. How about that?
No, I think that sounds good. So in a way, you kind of knew you might like to do it, but you may have stumbled into it a little bit as well, right? Did you?
Well, I was pretty much would like to have headed in that direction to have my own business at some point.
Yeah. Well, so did it start with investment management, or did you start somewhere else first?
Well, it started with not having any idea what the heck you wanted to do, and so it was a transition process where that's where you end up. And, with me, as long as you evolve, through a couple of graduate schools and 3 type jobs, you're evolving toward, okay, what excites me as I move along. and how can I get over in that area that excited me the most? And it evolved into investments was the most attractive for me.
Yeah. Well, and so that journey did take you to managing one of the larger pension plans, at RJ Reynolds in the United States. How did you transition from there into owning your own business and building your own business?
Well, I had always thought about it. I had talked to our co-founder, Gene Hoots, about it, but I'd always thinking of moving in that direction. And it was you were kind of forced to with the barbarians at the gate. So, after the KKR acquisition of RGR Nabisco, you know, my choices were to try to stay with them when they go to New York, or I think I probably could have, or um, start a business, or go to Chicago or L.A. or somewhere and get another job in investments.
Mm-hmm.
And there was no doubt in my mind that what I wanted to do, and so they wanted me. I don't know if you want to get into this, but anyway, I had built this research system, Fundametrics, and we had been investing alongside the outside money managers, and we were outperforming relatively consistently the best out there. And just, not through my brilliance of picking stocks or anything like that, as opposed to just a disciplined following of the statistics, of the data that we accumulate. So my RJR, as soon as the acquisition was announced, the atmosphere at the headquarters here in Atlanta changed.
Mm-hmm.
And they came to me, my boss, who was Gene Hoot's replacement. He'd gone to New York with Richard Tang.
Mm-hmm.
And his name was Bob Schultz, nice guy. I like Bob. And Bob really liked what we were doing with in-house and with Fundametrics. But he and a lawyer came to me and said, you have to get rid of the research. And you have to get rid of this little $3 million outside business you have. It's actually called the Carolina Equity Fund.
Mm-hmm.
But anyway, and I said, well, I don't want to get rid of it. I mean, we don't know what's going to happen with this LBO environment. A lot of people are going to be terminated, and I've got a little operation started here, and they said we don't care. So
Okay.
you get rid of that, or you will have to exit the firm on March 1st, 1990.
Yeah.
And so I did not get rid of it, and so I was kind of forced to go somewhere, and I was successful in convincing Gene to go with me.
Right. So, so a little bit baptism by fire then, right? You chose to stay, you had the courage to stay with the system you had built instead of maybe the guaranteed, path of staying with a larger place. So, so you all went out, and what was that first year or two like, using your research system and getting that business started?
Well, I would say that would be probably the most difficult, obviously, part of starting a business is the start. And, the real problem is you don't have any money. And we did not go after private equity capital. Then if we had, it wouldn't have mattered because they wouldn't have given it to us.
Okay.
So, and Gene had resources of his own, and the third partner, who was only with us about a year, who had plenty of resources of his own. So the only financing problem was me, because really the primary cost of a business like this is your cost of living. Because we had like 40,000 revenue from the Carolina Equity Fund, and so that really covered our operations, because our operations didn't have much cost at all. Had some, and so really we just had to live. And So the first year was it was really mostly strenuous for Harriet and I, but dividing up the work, I did. Gene Hoots did all the marketing. The other guy was supposed to do the he was in North Carolina. The other partner was supposed to do the marketing in Atlanta, but he was not effective at all.
Mm-hmm.
And so, he exited the firm, like I said, in about a year. And so I'm not bragging or anything. It's kind of stupid, I think, but I just did everything else. I did trading and research and portfolio management and client reports. And I just worked all the time, literally all the time. And so we were a year in my basement with, the cost was near zero, certainly as 40,000 was covering it. And then after a year, we went to this small office right near the Westminster front gate across from the Amico station. It was a little crappy office thing. And we were there about a year, and then they tore it down. So we went to another office.
Right.
But and so it was a difficult period. One of the hardest things was this. Humans are the biggest challenge. After not having enough money in the beginning, humans are the biggest challenge probably. And his third partner he was like my wife, an extreme extrovert, and he would, when we got that office and not in my basement, he would come more often and start talking. I didn't have time to talk.
Okay.
I was just busy. I was going to be there late at night. And so that's kind of that was a difficult part.
Well, when did you realize this business was going to survive? At what point? Like either a couple of years into it, what was there a big, getting a big revenue base? When did you realize this business was going to survive and work?
I was probably overconfident. I don't think you go into anything like this, put your family, your livelihood so much at risk. Unless you were pretty committed and confident. And so Gene brought in 2 or 3 accounts in a few months. And, I was, putting everything together. It didn't look beautiful, I guess, but it looked all right. And I was pretty sure within the first year, as long as the 2 of us were together, that we would be successful. What I was surprised about was how we were successful. We ended up being successful in the high net worth area. That should not have been a surprise. I had been working in institutional at RJR Nabisco as their CIO, and we were doing well, and we had a research process that was very explainable. And so, I don't know why people wouldn't hire us. Institutions wouldn't hire us, except we didn't have any money under management.
Right.
Maybe they didn't like that.
Got great ideas, but you got to have the money.
Right.
You don't want to be first in queue, I think.
You're sitting down in your basement thinking how brilliant you are, but nobody else.
Seems to be agreeing. Yeah. Okay.
So we did not succeed in getting the institutional market to hire us like I thought they would. And we had a number of presentations back in the beginning, and
but friends and family is what stuck, right? The
friends and family, Winston-Salem, North Carolina, and Gene he's just very effective at that. And so the assets just started growing pretty quick. And eventually, especially as we started to hire other people, I actually brought in a lot of accounts also in Atlanta area. So it worked well.
Yeah. So you believed in the research system that gave you the confidence, and you also knew the confidence to leave the pension plan and start your business. And at the same time, you knew that's kind of what you wanted to do. So it all made some sense, took some faith, but a couple of years into it, you all had a viable business. So let's elevate this conversation just a little bit to say, in hindsight, you were a real early innovator in the industry. And I know, you won't say, hey, I was an innovator, but you introduced a systematic quant-based way of approaching. you really embraced the RIA model, right? The independent advisor model, which was different than the wirehouses and the brokerage world. Did you see yourself as an innovator? Did you go in with that plan? And if not, how did you come about taking advantage of those unique things?
Not at all. I'm sure I just sort of fumbled into it, but we had maybe 8 or 9 outside equity managers at RJR Nabisco that we were overseeing. So, and they wanted to make sure we knew how smart they were. And so they would tell us whatever we wanted to hear. And so I just did a lot of listening. I did a lot of writing, a lot of notes. One of my graduate degrees is engineering, and I enjoyed programming. And I actually tried to program this myself, Fundametrics, in the beginning, and it's just more than I could handle. But I enjoyed the computer, the data part of the business at Arthur Anderson. I got into the finance, got a CPA, and I never worked in accounting or auditing, but I just was able to get a certificate. And so I had that knowledge, and then going to RJR, I kind of kept angling toward the outside manager analysis, and that was really the key, I think, to Fundametrics, was just following them, seeing how smart they thought they were, and how many mistakes you could find. And they're not mistakes like, oh, you thought the market was going up and it went down. It was really mistakes of operating mistakes of their decisions. So this is what we're going to do. We're going to buy and sell securities based on this criteria. And then we built a process that says, okay, we'll just measure your criteria and see if you're doing what you said you're going to do.
Yeah.
And that was very important to Fundametrics. And so far as also building confidence. Say, these really bright guys from Harvard and Yale, they don't really know what they're doing either. They're just philosophically started in the wrong direction. So it's contrarian kind of a thinking was important. The valuation and the problem that we thought most of them had was the human side. They got so confident of their egos got in their way.
So you built an objective system that was measurable, that would either implement to do what you say you're going to do, or you could see a red flag saying that philosophy just seems to be out of bounds, but you stripped out that the impact of human guessing, human emotion, or ego.
Right. And also we built this little company with Gene and I, which was really a limited partnership with a few $1 million, not a lot. We actually had some RJR executives in there. And so we could measure ourselves and say, okay, if we're so smart, how are we doing, against these people we're evaluating at RJR. And so that helped us build our confidence, I think.
Yeah. Well, so 35 years later, you've done what most small business owners don't do, and that is build a firm that is bigger than themselves and has outgrown themselves and is still around 35 years later. As you look back over the 35 years, and this is something we spend a lot of times with entrepreneurs talking about, what were those 3 or 4 major disruptions to the plan that you encountered, and you had to either pivot or evolve so you could keep the business in place and navigate through those major dislocations?
There were not a lot of major disruptions. So I said, the first one was just getting started, the first year or two, and getting everything, the research set up and clients in the door. And probably the couple of major disruptions was, I guess, the tech bubble in late 1990s.
Yeah.
And, which, that is one which, and if we went back and looked at our RJR outside managers, who were really the tops in the country, they screwed it up big time.
Mhm.
And, they just, once investment characteristic goes against you for 3 or 4 or 5 quarters, and you're trying to talk to clients about it why you look so stupid, it's a lot of pressure to change, and the big ones changed, and we
Mhm.
didn't change, and so I don't know what we lost, maybe 20% of our clients, and then when you're trying to grow and you're hiring people, you get a little ahead on the expenses, too much expenses
Mhm.
with the anticipation of revenue, and then when the revenue goes the other way, it's catastrophic. And so
Yep.
it was very difficult, and even within CornerCap, we had we had several people who were arguing to to buy more of the internet, high multiple technology stocks. I wouldn't allow it. I mean, I was just really, really adamant about it. So we have to stay with it. And as you're losing accounts, that really, that's a really hard thing to hold on to.
Yeah.
But and then after the crash, which was March of 2000, it flipped immediately on one day, and the clients who stayed with us, I don't think you couldn't force them to leave.
Mhm.
They were for the rest of their lives. They were our clients.
Yeah.
which
They saw the
was-
value of the
right.
discipline and the conviction.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and it's just and it's amazing how the numbers is that we'll never get a positive alpha again because we're so far down, and in a year we're back positive
Yeah.
since inception. It was really unreal.
Amazing.
So that was the biggest interruption.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, so you had external pressure to change, you had internal pressure to change, but you had conviction to stay with the discipline. And in fact, almost at the darkest hour, did CornerCap have to do layoffs back then? I can't remember.
We cut salaries for
Okay.
like 2 or 3 quarters. We people making X amount were cut a little bit more than people making Y amount.
Yeah. Okay.
So
But you kept the team.
we kept the team together. Didn't want to let that go.
Yeah. And navigated through. And then within a year, things looked a lot better. What else? Any other disruptions come to mind? Any major external or internal events that
Well,
forced you to navigate?
the other disruption is maybe relates to something else you were talking about longevity was losing my co-founder.
Yeah.
And that was what 3 years ago, I
Yeah.
guess,
Mm-hmm.
which that was very very difficult. I mean, when you've been working as partners before before CornerCap, we've been 40 years together, and he really sort of changed his I mean, he was 80 years old, and he changed the way he thought about investments. And he left the firm and not happy. And
Which happens, right? I mean,
it happens.
that happens through history. Founders, sometimes have disagreements and split. That's what happened.
You find anybody with a 40-year partnership, that's pretty darn good.
It's pretty darn good. Yeah. And you guys made it certainly 30 years. But that disrupted events here. And of course, I was here at that time too. So
right. And we did what we could to hold on to the accounts. But
Yeah.
I think we recovered from that, just
yeah, no, the team just keeps fighting and moving on, and comes out again whole and intact. So wonderful there. Did as you look, a lot of your story and journey is the courage of conviction. As a business leader, were there ever times you saw you having to change or relax that conviction in some way to allow change to happen? Because there's always that balance between when do you have the conviction and stay with it, or when do you have to adapt?
Yeah.
Was there ever a time you had to adapt, and how did you know to release the conviction?
Well, I think it's a bit of a problem when you are as committed as I was.
Yeah.
I mean, because when you start, you have to be, to my opinion, you have to be that committed to survive. So you cannot be waffling.
Yeah.
And so I was committed and consistent and just drilled it in all of our employees from day one. And as you evolve over time, so we go from, 2 people to 22 people or whatever it is.
Mm-hmm.
With each person you hire, there's an impact on your culture. It changes. I mean, you like to say, oh, no, our culture is always the same. Well, it's not. Every time you bring in a new personality, a new attitude, a new feeling, or you let one go, your culture's changing. And so as you grow those people, you teach them and you drill the philosophy and the attitude in them as best you can. But you know it can evolve, and I'm not talking about investments, although it could be investments, but it
Mm-hmm.
can evolve in various ways. I mean, like, and I think I was probably, I'll say my stubbornness was not necessarily a positive.
Mm-hmm.
So the world went away from institutional market, and so it went more toward the high net worth, and I never really totally embraced it. I went along with it
Mm-hmm.
because that was the direction of success, and I think
Yeah.
people were pushing me in that direction all along the way. But
Mm-hmm.
I enjoyed the research. I was very impressed and proud of what we had accomplished, which was, not just keeping up, but actually exceeding some of the best out there. And so it was hard for me to change. I used to, a CFP, I was, I was negative on
Mm-hmm.
that.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And so I sort of required people to, if you're going to be an investment professional, you need to get a CFA. And that's just pure investments. And so I said, we're an investment management firm. So it's got that word in there for some reason.
Mm-hmm.
And so I was probably, um, I could have better balance if I had an earlier recognition that, the world's not totally going in that direction.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, and it's always a hard decision too, but certainly, you try to keep a balance there.
Well, but I didn't change. I
Yeah.
still haven't changed.
No, you haven't, right?
No, I'm
But I think
still,
you've allowed the team to kind of pivot
yeah,
things, right?
right.
And it takes a little faith, but confirmation along the way too. So,
Yeah, yeah. Well, just you hire 20 people. I mean, things change,
yeah.
and probably one of the more difficult things about running any business is human beings.
Yeah.
Some of them don't work out, and you've got to figure out, what do I do with this person who's not working out?
Yeah.
We tend to say, "Oh, we'll give them a little more time," and that little more time a lot of times ends up being 3 years.
Mhm.
And so I was not good. I was not that patient with it. I was say, this is not going to work out, and so you need to be willing to transition, your professionals at a faster pace than every 3 or 4 years. You want to give them a chance, but not that much of a chance.
Not that long. So, as you look back, then what is the key to success when we think about like advice we'd share with other business owners and entrepreneurs, whatever industry they're in, to make it 35 years? Is there a key to success? You would summarize it, or is it a couple things? How do you think about that?
Well, I guess first off would be that what I'd already said was the commitment, and so you just have to have that blind faith, commitment to say, we are here and we're going to go over there, and I don't know how we're going to get there, but we're going to go there.
Right. We're going that direction.
And I
Right.
hope y'all come with me.
Right.
But if you don't, you don't. But we're going to end up there. And
Mhm.
so you just have to have that blind commitment. And I think extremely important is what I've alluded to is the organization. I mean, do people not just get along, but do they like what they do? And if you don't like what you do, you're probably not going to be good at it. So
Mhm.
every day you come to work, you have to say, well, I enjoy coming to this place. I enjoy doing the things I do. And every day I want to get a little better at doing what I do. And if you do that and you get that feeling with everyone in the firm, you will be successful
Mm-hmm.
because they will figure it out.
Yeah.
You don't have to figure it out. Everybody else will figure it out.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a selling process of me trying to sell each employee and executive, and them trying to sell me.
Mm-hmm.
So you have to have that kind of a relationship where the selling is everybody's comfortable with selling each other,
Yeah. Yeah.
convincing each other.
Yeah. Wonderful answer. So, all right. So last question, when you look back at where you were getting started, just getting started, maybe coming out of college, what advice would you have given yourself back then that you'd like to have known then that you know now?
I don't know. I don't have any regrets about any direction or things that we tried to make happen,
Mhm.
and I'm not sure I have any. I mean, I say it's always good to have capital. It's good to have money.
Mm.
However, I'm good at rationalizing. Whether it's realistic or rationalization is hard to tell sometimes. But I feel like you learn a lot when you don't have money, because when you have money, then you don't have to spend some of the time. If you don't have money, the only thing that replaces it is more of your time.
Mm-hmm.
And so, with blind commitment, with everybody on board, I mean, the people that joined the firm, and I know I was working the ridiculous hours, but Richard and Ray and John and others, they were similar. They were working a lot of hours, and
Yeah.
so, and not having the money, I think you learn things you wouldn't learn otherwise. So, I guess that would be the first recommendation I think people would make about entrepreneurialism. Well, you need to have the capital. That's what I was told.
Mm-hmm.
Didn't have it. The other thing would be you need to have a plan for growth.
Mm-hmm.
Like I said, you need to make rain. And Gene Hoots was a rainmaker, and so I knew we needed to have uh, a relatively certain marketing skill set, and me hiring the Atlanta person, which didn't work out. Going to get the Atlanta marketing also. So I think I appreciated that.
Mm-hmm.
However, over time, as I think I did not emphasize that uh, growth, marketing, as much as I did the other parts of the business. And part of that may be because I was running all the other parts of the business, so I was passionate about that. But, in hindsight, maybe I would think a little bit different about, really successful investment firms, when the success is defined by how much money you make, they are extremely focused on the marketing, on the business development. I mean, and that's most firms. That's the lion's share of investment firms out there. That's what they're focused on. And I'm not, I'm not like that. I don't. Money has never. It may be hard for anybody to believe, but money's never been a real attraction for me.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's dangerous.
So we'll just pause on that point. So money was not the motivator, and it can be dangerous. Reflect on that just a moment, and what did motivate you at the end of the day?
Well, I think to put something together that you reflected your values, your um, your culture, something that you can look back and say, well, I'm proud of what I did.
Yeah.
If you're not after money, what are you after?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so I don't think I'm after somebody looking at and saying, "Oh boy, you were really smart." I don't think I'm after that either. I think I'm just sort of something that in internally makes you feel brings satisfaction. I mean, I hope the firm still feels that way.
Yeah.
I want to create a product that I'm proud of. I want to serve others.
Yeah.
And
Well, I hope you feel that way about your own journey for those 35 years, because you've done many of those things, right? You've served others. You've built a firm that's now larger than you. And I think it's an amazing story.
yeah,
So.
I do feel that way. I'm proud of what we created.
Yeah. Well, good. Well, high five there. Great job, Tom. So thank you for joining us here and just being able to share your story to help other entrepreneurs learn and grow. We appreciate it.
Yeah. Well, thank you.
Yeah.
Do a good job.
Yeah. We'll keep going. We'll keep working. All right. Welcome back. Claudia and Cannon with you. Great retrospective of Tom's career,
Absolutely.
hearing how he made decisions, how he grew the firm.
Mhm.
Some of that I knew, but some of it I didn't. It was actually
Yeah.
good to hear it again. So really enjoyed that. What was your impression of the episode?
I mean, my favorite part was hearing what motivated Tom to start the business. I've worked with him now for a few years, but I've never had that conversation with him. So
Yeah.
it's really interesting to hear how he was motivated to build something that reflected his values and was more for his legacy. And he wasn't really motivated by money.
Yeah.
And that was really interesting. And then the other thing I loved was, I think you asked him, how did you know that the business is going to do well? And he said, "Oh, I was probably overconfident." And that feels like such a quintessential Tom line.
Yeah.
And so I loved hearing that too.
Yeah, we hear that from more and more when entrepreneurs give advice to other entrepreneurs. It can't be about the money at the end of the day. Of course, the money's important, but if you're motivated by money, there are going to be times when stuff breaks down, and that's just not enough to keep you going. So, yeah, Tom just being another example of that classic, more than passion, just conviction that this will work, right?
Yeah,
and
exactly.
aligning with your values, building around a culture you believe in, and he was so proud of the product. He innovated through a systematic way of investing. He did, like quant investing back when quant was just getting started and wasn't cool. But he also, innovated with the model we use today,
Right.
which is now pretty common, but at the time was different. So really interesting there. That's cool. So yeah, no, I love that. And in that theme too, we often talk. So here, our first point, what kind of entrepreneur are you? There's the bootstrapping entrepreneur who it's more about cash before growth. And then there are other entrepreneurs who are like, well, let's prove the model out and then grow rapidly with first mover advantage, use other people's capital. Right. Two very different approaches. And Tom clearly in that first approach, right? And you want to know who you are. And, for Tom, it really was about, that bootstrap.
Yep,
right?
Absolutely. I mean, my favorite quote he said was, "You learn a lot when you have no money." And, it's something we hear from so many entrepreneurs on the show. You have to get creative when you're bootstrapping, and you learn the business more. Tom talks about how he started in his basement, and he was wearing so many different hats in order to make the company what it is. And so, he really had to dig in and learn. And I think that bootstrapping really helps you with that.
Yeah. And it echoes through. You can see how our culture works, right?
Yep.
I mean, we don't use third-party capital to grow, and we use, we cash first.
Right.
And there's nothing wrong with it, but you do grow slower. And what was interesting, the trade-off is slower growth.
Yeah.
And what was interesting was Tom did say in hindsight, maybe I should have put a little bit more attention to the growth side of things.
Exactly.
And in fact, that's more what the next generation leadership of the firm is starting to really lean into. And it's exciting work, and, we're getting the right balance. So, but I just thought that was really interesting. Yeah. Another one, in keeping with the title of this episode, the courage of conviction that Tom has. Conviction is just a powerful word for Tom and for entrepreneurs, right? And it's at times when it's what saves you in that survival mode and gets you through things. And and there are times, when it doesn't work for you, right? I know you found the bubble story interesting.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, just as it relates to investing, he had that internal pressure, the external pressure to change the investment philosophy, to build a product, to mirror what was going on. And then he ended up being correct and staying with his original plan and just keeping to his convictions. And it all ended up working out for him.
And we're talking about the tech bubble.
Yes.
So, and there've been other bubbles too, right?
Yeah,
but it was an example he referred to back to the tech bubble, how he was getting internal pressure to change. So, not only conviction of the investment philosophy, but conviction to this research system is what got us here.
Yeah.
And now to roll out a product where, in some sense, the story's already kind of told, and you don't want to buy high and end up selling low in the investment world. So, but the internal pressure, I remember I wasn't at the firm at the time, but just hearing the struggles that was going on, he ended up being right. But it took, it took some courage,
Right.
to stick through that.
Absolutely.
But it's interesting. He did refer to the fact, like on the institutional side, which is an area that is research centric, right? And research is our DNA, that investment research. And, he said, I may have overemphasized that for too long, right? Because our growth and excitement has really come, not excitement, but highest growth has come from the private client business. And that's developed some tension, right? And
Right.
his staying convicted to the institutional side, actually, and he referred to it, had one of our co-founders separate from
Yep.
the firm. That bubbled up a whole set of issues. So that conviction helped, it contributed a little bit of a breakdown there,
Right.
right? It caused pain.
Yep.
And we referred to that. So just really interesting. Last point I'll make, though, about those convictions. Those still echo through today in 2 of our 4 core values, which, Tom's proud of and keeps us making our decisions today. So, 2 of those 4 are 1, thinking independently,
Yep.
which is so key on the research side, and 2, helping proactively. Tom talked about just the service culture we have, and helping proactively there, people solve problems, achieve what they want to do. Those are 2 of our important values and
Yeah.
continue on. Final thought we would just point out just for a moment is, that notion of over 35 years, industries change, people change, and it's so important for people and culture to adapt,
Yep.
To remain successful. And, I know, you've learned a little bit about the journey now.
Yeah, a little bit. I know obviously I wasn't here, but again, starting from his basement and then kind of turning it into a more founder-centric company where he really was the heart and the brain of everything going on. And then slowly he started turning over the reins a bit, and there was executive committee. I think there are 3 of you on there.
Yeah.
And now, leadership meets every Tuesday.
Yeah.
And you're leading it.
Yeah, exactly. So Tom did, in that interest of transition, realizing the firm was outgrowing him.
Yep.
We moved on from a founder-centric culture to that executive committee for a number of years, where 3 of us ran the firm, and then we continue to professionalize the core functions and roll out and expand our skill set. And now we have a 6-person leadership team,
Yep.
and Tom's not on that leadership team, right?
Right.
He's the largest shareholder, so we still report to him daily. But that management transition has happened, and so many firms struggle with that. And it's never easy, but that's how you keep people and culture adapting, and we make our decisions according to the values we've talked about. And, and that's how we take advantage of opportunities and manage change. So, well, it was a great episode. We hope you enjoyed hearing from Tom. I know we always do. I mean, there's so much strength in his experience, and we just appreciate him sharing his thoughts on the 35th anniversary. And we hope you enjoy the episode.
Thank you for listening to today's episode. Are you looking for more resources to help your business? Visit CornerCapPodcast.com for our free ebooks to help you plan for inevitable transitions in your business. Tune back in every other week for a new episode.